Hi everyone, Jay Egersdorff here, previewing Game Week 24 of the Fantasy Premier League. I had a great week last week, Game Week 23, I got 91 points, so that sits me 399th overall, so just inside the top 400. I feel that's a pretty good position to be in as we go into the final sort of third now of the season. Quite a bit to get through this week, so I'll get straight in. Some of the stuff I'm going to chat about: Man City, Tottenham, Chelsea, what to do with them, a bit more on the transfer window, and then we're going to talk about captain options for this week. So a lot of managers are getting in contact with me on Twitter and through the channel to ask me about these great upcoming fixtures that Man City have got. They've got 3 of the next 4 games at home, so that's a real good opportunity for managers to get some points. So awesome fixtures. There's a small caveat, and that's they play weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend. So the next sort of 3 weekends, there's a midweek game sandwiched in between. So there's an important league game. There's that really important, crucial semi-final for the Carabao Cup on Wednesday, I think it is, next week. Does that put Aguero at a rotation risk? I mean, pretty obvious move might be at the minute to get Aguero into your team. He could be a great captain option. There's a big element of risk there for me. Jesus apparently isn't too far away from coming back. Take that with a pinch of salt, because it did look like quite a bad injury to me when he went off a few weeks ago. We have seen Raheem Sterling playing in that number 9, false number 9 position. I just can't see Aguero playing all those matches, and I can't see how they won't play him in the cup game midweek. That could limit his minutes. We're right in the middle of the transfer window. There could be a new signing there, perhaps just to act as cover. So the bottom line on the Man City thing is we just don't know. That's been the theme all season, and that's what has made Aguero a risky pick. So just tread carefully there. I think if you do have him, there's every reason he will play this weekend, but don't be too surprised if he gets brought off early if they're doing well and they're winning. I do think that maybe the defence at Man City, maybe there's a way in there if it's a City player that you're looking for. Otamendi, of course, is a really popular pick. He is a goal-scoring threat. One of the things I don't like about this guy is he does collect a hell of a lot of yellows, and I did notice on Sunday when he got booked, I think he's up to about 7 or 8 maybe now. And I know that if you get 10, then that's a 2-game domestic ban. So that's something just to little off in the future, but with all these games coming thick and fast, FA Cup and Carabao Cup, he could get booked in those, and they of course count towards the Premier League as well. John Stones is back from injury. Didn't have a great game, I didn't think, against Liverpool, so I'm not sure if he's nailed on. Poor old Delph is injured, so you've got Danilo maybe there, but be wary of the young player Zinchenko maybe taking his space. The guy I really like that is flying under the radar, he's got an average of 5 points per game week for the last 7 weeks. His average across the season is above 4. He's the top form goalkeeper out of the entire game. He comes in at 5.5 million, and that's Edison in goals. He's got a great distribution on him as well, so don't be surprised if maybe he picks up an assist at some point this season. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. So if I was looking at a City player, I'd be considering him right now. That could be a good one. Not many people have him. Coming on to Spurs, of course, if you need a Man City player, it's likely that you're perhaps going to have to ditch one of your Spurs guys. Teams are overloaded a little with the Spurs people because of the double game week, so swapping out Kane for Aguero, or Son, or Edison maybe for Sterling. Would you want to lose an informed Spurs player right now? There's a lot of talk in the press at the minute about, now the window's open, what would Spurs do if a big offer came in for Harry Kane? Not just now, but maybe in the summer. And the bottom line is, for Spurs, they have to be in the Champions League. If they're going to keep on to these star men and try and build a team that is going to make a proper title challenge, they've got to keep these guys. So they've got to get in the Champions League. As a result of that, they're 3 points short at the moment. They've got this game against Southampton. They've got to be winning football matches, and that can only be good for an FPL point of view. Southampton have the 5th worst home records, so in the bottom 25% for home records in the league, so that's encouraging. Spurs, as we know, their fixtures turn next week. They've got a run of fairly on paper, more trickier ties. If it was me, I'd probably just stick this week with your Spurs player. I think maybe you do need one Man City player just to cover that good run of games. Most people have probably got that. I wouldn't panic too much and go and make wholesale changes right now, just given that Spurs need that win and Southampton aren't great. The other thing to factor into that as well that I noticed, of course, if City reach the Carling Cup final, the Carabao Cup final, they're going to miss a week, and that's only 4 game weeks away. There's every chance it might get moved to midweek. If you want to keep an eye on these fixtures and all these changes and double game weeks and stuff that the Cups throw up, there's a really good guy you need to follow on Twitter if you don't know already. It's a guy called Ben Krellin. His handle is @BenKrellin. I'll put that in the description box so you guys can follow him if you don't already. He's a real whiz with spreadsheets and stuff. He's a lot more technical than I am, but really useful info, so give him a follow. Chelsea, what is going on with Chelsea? They can't score. Hazard is eternally tired apparently, despite being rested and subbed off every week and wrapped in cotton wool. He can't seem to complete 90 minutes. Really let managers down last week with a meagre 1 point at home to Leicester, wasn't it? So that was really disappointing. Morata's gone off the boil and then got himself sent off yesterday in the FA Cup replay. He looks way off the pace to me. Missed a lot of big chances recently. Conte looks a little unsettled. There's something funny going at Chelsea. I think if it was me, I'd probably get off those Chelsea players now if I was you. You could do Hazard to De Bruyne, for example. You could do Morata, perhaps to Aguero with a bit more money. Firmino's an obvious switch. He's less in price. There's talk of people in the transfer window. Patrick Aubameyang, I know I've said that name wrong. Possibly going to Arsenal. He might come in and be a similar price. So don't make any flash decisions. If you have Morata, hold as late as you can. Like we talked about last week with the transfer window, a lot can happen in a day. So maybe there could be a new star striker moves to a different club or something changes and that gives you another option. So don't worry today, but as close as we get to the deadline, maybe make that move. Not tons of options in that striking department, which is a little tricky. But the transfer window, we talked about it last week, has thrown up some options for us in midfield. So I really like the look of Walcott now. Talked about him last week, having this big drive for the World Cup. He said exactly that in his press conference, in his interview yesterday, that he sees himself as in a position to get into that squad, but he really needs to up his game. Great news for us FPL managers. Not Calvert-Lewin, Oxlade-Chamberlain, the same. Fantastic against Man City last week, a goal and an assist. It's all thanks to Coutinho moving, creating a space for him to go and fill. He's grasping that chance. So maybe if you're looking at losing Morata, you could switch to a cheaper striker. Again, there's not tons around. I'm hoping Nias gets a move somewhere into a first team because he's quite cheap. Be interesting to see if Lambert backs Peter Crouch because he's quite cheap. Likewise, Juve. So there are some options maybe emerging at that cheap bracket. Callum Wilson I like, but there's a rotation risk. I think Defoe, Afobe, a young guy called Mousse who plays there, Josh King. So is he nailed on to play every week? I'm not sure. But keep thinking about that World Cup stuff we talked about last week. Who's really motivated to further their form and get a place in that World Cup squad for their respective country? Finally this week, captain options. I think there's 3 really good ones. Kane, who looks pretty stable, he's on form. Tottenham need to win. Talked about it earlier. That looks pretty safe. Salah, of course, likewise. Little caveat on that, I have seen some glimmer of hopes for Swansea in the last few games. They got a good win down at Watford and they got a win last night in the Cup. Is that going to be enough to stop the Liverpool juggernaut? Not sure. And of course we talked about Aguero, but as is the theme all season, be careful with Man City. I can see rotation there. Is the guy going to play every week? Is he going to play the whole game? Not sure. Really, that's what you are looking for in your captain. So I hope that's useful. Keep the comments coming. Thanks for the interaction on Twitter. Thanks as ever for your support. Have a great game week, and I'll be back, not next weekend because it's the FA Cup, but if I get a chance, I'll be doing one for the midweek round of fixtures, which will be game week 25. Cheers, everybody.